Hello, everyone. We are going to be reading an article called The Middle Colonies, a Basic Overview. And I'll guide you through it, but as usual, I would really prefer for you to make your own annotations and highlighting. This is just support. I really would be expecting you to know how to do this on your own at this point. Make sure you pause often so you can stop and reflect on each paragraph and add your own annotations. Okay? If you find yourself wanting to just copy what I'm doing, that's not okay. All right? Make sure you're making your own notes. All right, I'll be checking these. The Middle Colonies were the 4 colonies sandwiched between the New England and the Southern colonies. So it's 4 colonies. The Middle Colonies were Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Those are the 4. So we'll stop for a second and we'll make some connections. So we have 4 colonies in the middle, just like we had 4 colonies in New England. Delaware, now if you've ever been to any of these places, you're going to want to make connections. Or if you've ever read a book that takes place in these colonies, you can refer to that. Or if you've ever seen them on a map, you could put what their shape is. Anything like that. Everyone's heard of New York. You should have connections to make there too. All right? Go ahead and make your connections there with your pencil. Okay? The economy of the of the Middle Colonies was based on agriculture. This means that farming was a way of life in this region, and many citizens earned a living from farming. Okay, farming was a way of life in this region. Many citizens earned a living. That means they made money from farming because of the fertile soil. So this is the opposite of the New England colonies. Middle colonies have wonderful soil and a long growing season. People were able to grow plenty of crops that they would sell for money, which are called cash crops. The crops that grew well in the Middle Colonies were wheat, rye, barley, and corn. These were all ingredients used to make bread. So the Middle Colonies earned the nickname the breadbasket colonies. Okay, so this is very different from the New England colonies, which had terrible farming soil and had to resort to fishing and lumber and whaling to make their money, right? So the economy, that means how they use their resources to make money, is based on agriculture. And agriculture is a fancy word for farming. This means that farming was a way of life. That means they did it a lot. And remember, if the New England colonies are up here and the Southern colonies are down here, these colonies here were the middle. And New England is here, Southern are there. As we go south, the temperatures are getting warmer and warmer. So here in the Middle Colonies, we have a long growing season, very fertile soil. People are able to grow crops that they would sell for money, which are called cash crops. Wheat, I'm sure you've all seen wheat. It looks, this is a terrible picture. These are all grains. So is rye, so is barley. These are all grains that can be used to make different kinds of bread, like corn bread or wheat bread or rye bread or barley. These were all, okay, so bread, yum. Well, at least I like bread. You might not, you might write yuck. And their nickname, the breadbasket colonies. Very nice. There were 2 people who made a large impact on the Middle Colonies. William Penn, does that sound familiar? Pennsylvania. Do you think this might have been named after him? This William Penn and Benjamin Franklin, I know you've heard of him. William Penn founded Pennsylvania. That means he started the whole colony to give the Quakers, that was a religious group, a safe place to live. He insisted on religious freedom for all people who lived in Pennsylvania. That's amazing. Because of his efforts, the standard of religious freedom spread throughout the Middle Colonies. Everybody wanted to start to have that. They did not want religious freedom up here in New England. Those Puritans were running a harsh group of colonies. They were angry and punishing. If you didn't agree with what they were saying, what the Puritans were saying, you could be punished or kicked out or killed. But here in the Middle Colonies, because of the Quakers and William Penn, religious freedom. You can practice your faith however you want. And that thought spread throughout all of the Middle Colonies, which is very nice. Benjamin Franklin was an inventor, and he also served as postmaster of Philadelphia. That means he was in charge of the mail service. He also invented the post office in the Middle Colonies. The list goes on and on for Ben Franklin because he made many contributions. Well, that is a fact. So William Penn founded Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania actually means Penn's Woods. That's what it means. That's what Pennsylvania means. And he wanted to give Quakers who wanted to practice their faith a safe place to live. He insisted on religious freedom. You guys, that's such a wonderful thing for all people who lived in Pennsylvania, and that thought soon spread throughout the rest of the Middle Colonies. Religious freedom. Ben Franklin was an inventor. Oh my gosh, yes. He also served as postmaster. He started so many things. He did the post office. He started a hospital. He started a library, a fire department, and he invented so many things. Ben Franklin was amazing. Citizens of the Middle Colonies enjoyed self-government. That just means they're governing themselves. They're making up their own laws. They're electing their own leaders. But just like New England. But their system of government was a little different than the system used in New England. People in each of the colonies elected representatives to speak for them in their colony's legislature. One of the main jobs of colonial legislatures was to make laws for the colony. Each colony also had a governor, which was somewhat controlled by the King of England. Okay? So, self-government, they're governing themselves. They're ruling themselves. People elected representatives to speak for them. So do you remember in New England, they all the white males went to town meetings, and they would discuss and write new laws and vote on them, all the men of the town. This is different. The people in the Middle Colonies are going to elect people to go and do those meetings where they write laws. Okay? And each colony also had a governor who was somewhat controlled by the King of England back in England. So that governor in the Middle Colonies had to check in with the King of England over in England, which probably made things a little bit trickier. Whereas in New England, they were doing everything there. Okay, on-the-job training. That means you're being trained to do a job while you're doing it. Okay, on-the-job training was common for many young men and a few young women in the Middle Colonies. This type of training was called an apprenticeship. That means, you guys, that someone who is a master at doing something like making wigs or being a blacksmith or making barrels or making shoes, someone who's a master at doing that would train someone young in how to do their job. Okay? Apprentices lived with the master artisan and worked with the master artisan to learn a skill or craft. Some types of apprenticeships included shoemaking, carpentry, they would build things with wood, candle makers, wig makers, apothecaries, they kind of made medicines for people, and many other types. Apprenticeships began with small tasks and were slowly given more responsibility until they had mastered the job. It's really cool. So if you could be an apprentice, think about what you might like to learn to do. So an apprenticeship, it's where you learn a skill so you can do the job with it later. And you're going to live with and work with the master artisan, the person who's really good at it. So you could make shoes, build things, make candles, make wigs, or make medicines. All right. You begin with small tasks and then get more and more responsibility until you had mastered it. Then you could go get a job and get paid. And someday, after you're a master, you might have an apprentice work for you. That's how it worked in the Middle Colonies.